So, hello, Antonia.
Hi, I'm Antonia. I'm the co-founder of a skincare company called Nursem.
Thank you very much. So, I'm just going to start by saying, so this is a brand new series of conversations called Thoughtful Conversations. So, obviously, Don't Buy Her Flowers is all about thoughtfulness, but I think beyond gifting, we wanted to look at other ways that people are thoughtful and just think about people with different lives and different jobs and different businesses and all that kind of thing. So, it's really broad. So, we can talk about everything.
Sounds good.
But yeah, so I thought I'd start. So obviously, you've mentioned Nursem, which we'll come on to because we're actually a stockist of Nursem, and we've had you when you were pre-Nursem as well.
Yeah,
Brand.
thank you for all your support.
Yeah, it's such a good product though, which is what I love. It's so good when the story is like, but it's just a great product, and that's what makes it work. But and also, so you're a nurse, and
Yeah,
and you've got two children.
yeah,
And a third on the way.
yes,
And you run your business with your husband, which
yes.
is always interesting. So obviously, I run the business, and Doug isn't in the business, but he's always around the business. And in the early days, that used to cause so many rows. I don't know how you feel about that. It's just a different relationship, isn't it?
It totally is, and it's funny because so my day nursing job is I'm a children's transplant specialist nurse. So luckily I've stopped working ridiculous shifts. I used to work on kids intensive care prior to this job, and I used to work weekends, nights, days, all the rest. And apparently, according to Johnny, the co-founder of Nursem, my husband, there was a work Antonia and there was a weekend Antonia or holiday Antonia, and they're two totally different people. So I think I just became quite burnt out with my previous job. So this job is a 9 to 5, and Monday to Wednesday kind of I do part-time because I've got the young two young boys. Yeah. And that works really well. But a lot of
isn't it, for nurses? I know one of my friends she got a promotion, but it meant that it was about October time, and she was like, this is so exciting because for years she's done all the ridiculous Christmas Day, everything. And then obviously it was the second surge, and she basically got the job and got an email like the next day like all things are off, as in everyone's in. Whenever you're in, you're going to be in for all the hours. And she was like, I'm almost there, and it will come. But
yeah it's definitely the dream. I think it's people, I think you can only kind of put up with just not really being able to plan your life, I guess, because you don't really know what shifts you're going to work, or days, nights, weekends, like you say, Christmas, bank holidays, all the rest. So it's much better for work, family life balance. But I think with Nursem, setting up a business with your husband, like there's no escaping it. And even though Johnny runs the business on kind of on day to day, our discussions always quickly turn from kind of the kids to Nursem, or we joke on that it's like our first child. Before the boys came along, we had Nursem, and it needs as much nurturing, if not more, than a child at times. So you probably find the same, I'm sure.
Well, it doesn't sleep, does it? So there's no let up.
No.
Constant, especially when you're growing it. But and with the nursing, so the last year, is it just all been carrying on? Because I know lots of things like operations and different things have been cancelled, but presumably with transplants that has to happen.
Yeah, so actually at the very start of the pandemic, they actually suspended the transplants. So we hardly had any transplants go ahead, and we had to turn very much to kind of virtual consultations with families and doing a lot more over the phone. But we look after all the kids kind of pre-transplant is really my role. So I'm saying pre, I meant post transplant. So we still have those children, they haven't gone away. So we've got about 150 kids that we look after throughout the UK and Ireland. So they still very much needed us. So luckily I wasn't kind of shipped off to somewhere else, even though that could have happened. But I was very lucky because our service was still very much needed, if not needed even more.
And presumably then in terms of like safety, it must have been so full on in your workplace, because obviously kids who are even more vulnerable, presumably
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think a lot of kind of worried families as well, like ringing up and just panicking about what was going on this pandemic, how it was going to affect their children and all the rest. So I think, yeah, a lot of reassuring and a lot of kind of trying to liaise with as many people as possible to kind of keep people involved and support there, even though it wasn't so easy.
And it sounds like, and it probably sounds really obvious to you, but for nurses, that piece, that reassurance, communicating, all that stuff is such it's not actually I mean, obviously there's the medical stuff as well, but that's what, from talking to people ahead of International Nurses Day, there was a lot of that about just that comforting people and what a massive part of the job that is. And that must be you have to take on a lot, I guess.
Yeah, I think you're totally right, and I think that as to be in healthcare, you have to be good at talking, and if you're not very good at talking or listening, then that's not really the job for you, because your job involves so much kind of comforting, supporting, just being an ear for somebody to complain to or whatever it might be. So yeah, and I think that kind of communication in times where people are having a really, really hard time, or they've lost like their child or whatever, you have to be really just there and good at listening and good at supporting them.
Yeah. And then how do you escape? Like, what's your way of going, right, I've got to get, or do you not? I suppose it's hard. Can you compartmentalize and come home and switch off from it? Or
I think to a degree, to be honest, I think it's got a lot worse since I've become a mum. And I was always quite an emotional person, as it was kind of pre-kids, but I think now that I've had children, I almost feel like I feel their pain. Even I feel the kind of pain. It sounds ridiculous, but you just feel this pain, and even more for them, and you just wish that you could just make things better and take it all away. And it definitely makes me.
And the parents as well. You must always. I know I would always imagine myself in that role, which is the worst nightmare. So that's a lot to deal with.
Yeah, and I think you just have to. I guess there's a degree where you have to be like, this is not, even though you want to support them as much as possible, you have to almost say a little bit, well, this is their pain, and this is what they're going through at the moment, and you need to be able to be there and support them as much as you possibly can, throughout and afterwards, or in whatever capacity it may be. So I think that's super important.
That's a lot. So 2 small children and a third, and then Nursem as well. When did you launch Nursem? Or what was originally called Yes Nurse?
Yes, so we did. So we started. So I qualified in 2008 as a children's nurse, and it was about 2009 that I actually ended up going off sick with my hands, because they became so cracked and dry, and they were bleeding. And I can remember a little child like looking at my hands and was like, what's wrong with you? Like, what's happened to your hands? And I was just absolutely mortified. And that was when I went, I had to take time off work, went to occupational health, and they were like, you need to take some time off. So that was 2009 really that we started the ball rolling, and I started kind of researching into what was on the market. It needed to be as kind of natural and as effective as possible. And slowly I wrote my husband in, which at the time was, he was still my boyfriend. So he got more and more involved, and then took over the kind of running of the business. But it's been a long, hard slog, and I think as I'm sure you've been there, when there's been times where you kind of think, oh my goodness, like, is the juice really worth the squeeze? And I think that it can be, I think the kind of the business then, back then when we first initially started it, we were kind of trying to get as many people to try the different formulas that we were kind of coming up with, and and get as much input and feedback from healthcare professionals who were having to wash their hands loads. And then we did so many iterations of the formula to get to the point where we are today. And in 2018 we launched through crowdfunding. We did a crowdfunding campaign to raise money, and then we did a bit of a rebrand with that money, and then that was when Nursem came along and was created. So yes.
I have to say, so we first got it because I think I was looking for a product that was really pure, like that didn't have anything nasty in it, because it was for our Stand Up to Cancer care package.
Oh yes, of course, yes.
And somebody, and I can't even remember where it came from, but someone said, you should try this. Because it's, and I think, and maybe you had it on your site at the time, but lots of cancer patients were using it because it was gentle and all the rest of it. And so that's when we added it. And then for a while, I think we couldn't get it because you were rebranding and everything else. And then it came back as Nursem, and we were like, oh, because it looks so different.
Yeah.
It's done so well for us as well, because it looks slightly more medical, and the branding is really cool. It works for men and women, which there's not that many kind of beauty products, unless you're a bloke who is really into moisturizers and stuff like that.
Yes.
It's quite limited, like what products men, so it's like a soap or a shower gel, and that's about it. But it really works. And we've got like one of the team's dad is a builder, and he swears by it.
Oh really? That's ace.
And I know when the pandemic was first happening and they were washing their hands so much, like I remember Buster had raw knuckles, and so many friends have said, you know, you go, well, how much were they washing their hands before? Probably not enough. But that doing it, they was like going to bed like bleeding and really sore. And
it's so bad.
But Nursem was amazing. Yeah. My husband's I just walked past my husband's desk and he's got a pot on there.
Oh,
but it's really good product. It's so good.
Thank you.
And then it was only a few weeks ago that you guys ended up on Dragon's Den, which I have to say, I was watching it like that because I cannot imagine anything more terrifying.
Oh, it was the most bizarre experience actually, because like I think, and we actually filmed it in September last year, so it was the first time I'd had a night off from during the pandemic, full stop, but also a night away from my youngest, who's nearly 2, but at the time was probably like just over 1, and it was kind of like it was so hard leaving him to go to do this thing, which I knew was super important. But yeah, it was. So we had on our first, we escaped, and we went and did the filming for Dragon's Den, and it was just so bizarre, kind of going to this place and then going into this room and then seeing the dragons in front of us. And have you watched it lots in the past? Oh my goodness, like absolutely yes. I think we've literally watched most of the Dragon's Den since it started. So it was kind of
as well. It suddenly becomes. I remember watching it before Done by Flowers was even an idea, but then when you're watching it with a business, you're watching it with a completely different focus, aren't you?
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. And you kind of like, I think we were, Johnny especially was obsessive over his financials. And we had
good. Because why are they on there and not know? You're like, it's the first thing they're going to ask you. Yeah, you guys have to
100%. You have to do it. And it was so funny, kind of in preparation for it, we for ages in our kitchen we had all of the financials printed out, and kind of, and they didn't just, I mean, they just showed a snippet of it from on the Dragon's Den. So even though on national TV it was 15 minutes, we were in the den for about 2.5 hours, just being grilled.
A dry mouth and
yeah, so it was a pretty intense schooling. And when you've been to like a job interview or whatever, and you come out and you're just like, you've worked yourself up to this thing, and then you're just like, oh my goodness, it's done, and like you ring and tell people about it. We then couldn't tell anybody because we'd had to sign all these non-disclosures, like we couldn't tell anyone about that outcome. And then we like got on this train back home, back up to Newcastle, and I was like sat there thinking, I just want to tell everybody, and I want to tell all my friends, and I want to tell everyone how well it's gone, but I can't tell anyone because I'll get into so much trouble.
Yeah. It was so good. And you had offers from all 5 dragons.
Yeah,
Okay, if you
yeah.
can do it, then you want to get it. Like, did you know before you went in who you wanted to choose?
Yeah, so we'd had a bit of a chat and we felt that Tej was the kind of the best from a kind of healthcare point of view, and somebody who's with his background being vitibiotics, it was kind of like, yeah, he seemed to be just the best fit.
Right.
So we had our kind of our heart set on him, but I think we were just completely bowled over when they just all kept coming and we were like, what? Another one?
Did you go? I watched it and I'm trying to remember. Did you go and consult at the wall? Yeah.
Yeah, so we did, but we actually didn't show it, but we went twice to the wall to kind of discuss equity and all the rest. So yeah, and it's funny because they did say to us, they were like, from kind of the point that you walk past this point, everything's recorded. So then even like our whisperings at the wall were all recorded. And I think when before we went in, Johnny was said to me, he was like, let's get all 5 dragons, and I was just like, yeah, good plan. But that even was recorded.
Oh god, it's so good because the one when you're watching it as a business owner, when you're watching it and someone just really ballses up or they burst into tears really early on, because obviously it's the emotion and the like you say, you've been like gearing up for this big moment.
Absolutely.
You feel so bad for them. Or they're kind of, yeah, no, we've got 500 grand's worth of debt on our house, and
I know. Yeah, you feel so bad for some of it, and I think, yeah, it didn't show anywhere near what was recorded, and kind of, yeah, that you had to know all the financials for the kind of last 3-4 years, and then the next your like hopefully your turnover for the future. And yeah, so
it has been totally skewed by the pandemic, right? So you got, at one point you ran out of product, is that right? Or you gave a lot of it to, so we haven't even mentioned the Nurse and Promise actually, so do you want to explain that?
Yeah, so part of so with Nursem, so for every single product that we sell, we give a month's worth of free hand care to a nurse, midwife, or other healthcare professional in the NHS. So to date, we've actually provided free hand cream to 250,000 healthcare staff through the Nursem Promise. So there's lots of people around, hopefully with very happy hands.
Because basically that was the product, like we was selling, because we stopped Nursem, we stock a couple of other hand creams, and but we were selling out of it in that period, that March-April time. It was just flying because
really,
because every gift, everyone needed hand cream.
Yeah. We were kind of luckily, we were kind of pre-warned about the Dragon Den effect and stock, so we made sure that we haven't run out of stock since we've been on Dragon's Den, which is good. So thanks to our team, made sure that we've had plenty of supply. But I think we've managed to kind of keep on top of it. There might have been a couple of periods where we were low in stock or didn't have much left, but yeah, I think COVID has definitely, I guess it's been the perfect storm for a hand care company. Yeah,
it's really weird because we similarly, obviously we sell thoughtful gifts and no one stops and people, so we just had this mad year, which was brilliant from a business point of view, but you do feel a bit weird about it, going, what you've been doing. So for you guys, it's 10 years, 12 years of work to get to the point, and then suddenly it just blows up and you kind of, this is great. I feel weird because like, I've got a brother who runs a pub, and he couldn't open and things like that, and it's really strange. But I think, like you, we then were like, okay, so we're looking at what we do for charities and also employing people.
Absolutely.
A lot of people who were furloughed from other jobs and came to work with us and stuff.
That's so good. Yeah, it's really good. And I think that's the thing, is that I guess in a way there's always going to be there'll be points where your business kind of superpowers a little bit, or it charges up and gets going at different times, I guess, in the year, like around Christmas or whatever, and then I think it's been really good, but I think the only thing is that you always get some negative people who will say, oh, well, you guys have just jumped on the bandwagon for COVID because to make something for people because of COVID. And we're just like, we've been around way before COVID.
Yeah,
like,
this is
we've done,
yeah.
And like with the Nursem Promise, we came up with that way before COVID. And I know a lot of companies, which is amazing. And I'm really glad that companies did this, but gave free things away to healthcare staff and kind of tried to do a little bit more kind of philanthropic work, which is absolutely fantastic, and we definitely encourage that.
It's not at their core necessarily, so it's I know what you mean. Yeah. But, and I think I read that you don't intend to leave nursing.
Yeah, I think it's I guess in a way I've always known that I've wanted to be a nurse, so from when I was like teeny tiny and poking and prodding.
I think that's quite common with nursing, isn't it? Like there's not that many jobs, I mean there's loads of jobs where someone goes, oh, this is what I want to be when I grow up, but it's total fantasy, or it's
yeah, exactly,
an astronaut. Okay.
Yeah.
The nursing is the one that's my mum's actually. I've got my mum's a nurse, my mother-in-law's a nurse, my sister-in-law's a nurse, and one of the best.
Oh, awesome!
That's really people. But it's it's definitely a vocation. It's
100%, and I think that's what I guess from when I need to root out this photo. There's a photo somewhere of me and I had the chunkiest little face when I was little, and I've got like a nurse's hat on, and my cheeks are like spilling out over the side of this hat. I need to find it. It'd be brilliant. But like from such a young age, that kind of whole caring thing, and I used to always say it at school that I was like quite emotionally intelligent, and I would like look after my friends, and I used to help try and put plasters on people who'd fallen over and things like that at school. And to then I guess being really lucky in that the second that I knew that I wanted to kind of pursue this career, going to uni and knowing exactly what I wanted to do, exactly what I was going to come out with, and the fact that I've always known that I wanted to be a children's nurse as well has just been really, I feel so fortunate for that, because I know there's so many people that go to uni or come out of uni and they still don't really know what they want to do, which
I
is so sad.
And there was no job for that at all. I don't even quite know why I did it. But I think, like I said, my best mate, she was the only one out of all of us who was like, well, this is what I'm doing. And then it was, she was going to become a nurse, and it was really tough. But a lot of graft to get there as well.
Yeah, definitely, but 100% worth it. And I wouldn't do anything else. I think it's I think I'd always have to, even if it was just like a few shifts a week or whatever, I'd still always have to have my hand in. I don't think I could give that up very easily.
No. Yeah, as I said, my mum's a nurse, so she was a midwife for a long
time. Wow.
And then she worked for the blood service, and she worked at a school as the school nurse, and it was kids with lots of sort of learning difficulties and stuff, so there's quite a lot of medication.
Oh, amazing. Yeah.
So she did her whole life was nursing. But it's definitely the empathy is a big thing, I think, that you.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So one of the reasons we wanted to talk to you was that we are working with Nursem to launch the nurse package on National Nurses Day. So we put out messages on Instagram and videos and stuff, and said, oh, what would you put in it? And it was really interesting because we had some really obvious suggestions. So it's like the chocolate, Nursem was obviously in there. We had the self-heating eye mask that we've got, the space mask.
Yeah, space masks, yeah.
Degradable sheet mask and stuff, because they were just saying anything that's kind of comfort. It was really clear from all the answers, like comfort, nurture, TLC, the things.
Yes.
But the one that I found really interesting, we've added it to the package, was the black ballpoint pen.
Yes.
It came up so much, and we would never have put that in a package if we hadn't have asked. Because the comfort stuff was obvious, chocolate was obvious, but it was like, oh, so that's gone in. So we've got, it's like 5 products is the set package, and then you can add other things. Because then we had loads of things like, oh, I definitely need gin, or I definitely need tea, or I need, all these different things. Foot cream was popular as well, I think. So, so that's going to be, and we've got the Nursem Promise going in there as well. So
yes.
Each one can then go on to nominate somebody.
Yes, that's really good.
Yeah,
it looks brilliant.
Yeah,
you guys done a really good job of it.
And I think like we've seen quite a lot of this year people sending packages and things for nurses and healthcare professionals and that kind of thing, just to say thank you. And
yeah, definitely. And that's a really thoughtful gift, I think, as well. It's kind of, I get everything in it. It's been curated especially by because of the research that you guys have done into what people would like and wanted. And I think like a perfect example is a black ballpoint pen.
What do you like, aside from gifts, what do you hope that from the pandemic and from the last year, because there was such an appreciation for nurses, and you kind of wonder why it wasn't there anyway. And I think it's just because they're just there and they're doing their job and everything. So
yeah,
I guess what do you hope that people take from that kind of going forward?
I guess it's just trying to be great. Well, I think people maybe haven't realised how lucky they are to have the NHS and kind of the healthcare staff, and to be surrounded by people that do really care. And I think it's times like, well, with this pandemic has massively shown us that there are people who will go the extra mile, and there's just been some amazing kind of acts of kindness that I've seen in my own workplace or heard about, and people just going that bit extra mile kind of thing to try and help at whatever it may be. So I guess in a way I just hope that people just continue to just appreciate what they have and maybe don't complain about it too much, because we're so lucky, we're so fortunate, and yeah,
it's complex as well. That sometimes, like obviously anything that big and complex, there will sometimes be things that don't go right, but there's processes in place to look at that and everything else. But that sometimes becomes the focus, and you're like, but there's all these other things, which
amazing things as well.
It's the people, isn't it? I think the camaraderie that I sense from anyone I know who's a nurse, and how important their team is. And I guess you just have to really rely on each other, right?
Oh, massively so. I think everyone jokes on at work, like you've got your work family, or you've got your work wife, or your work husband, or your work sister, or your brother, and like all of these things, because you go through so much together, and those times might be the middle of the night when you're in hysterics about something that might have someone might have said or happened or whatever, or you can be really low points, and those are the people that support you and totally understand your side. Whereas I think that, Johnny, my husband, he's not in healthcare, so when I used to come home and say, oh, I've had a really rubbish day, he just didn't really get why my day had been kind of so rubbish. But because you have people at work who really do get it, then luckily, fortunately, most people have those people that they can speak to and kind of, I guess, debrief a little bit after a particularly hard time or situation.
It sounds like that's really important, especially after the last year. There'll be a big fallout, I'm sure, from all the stuff that people have going.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think it is that whole thing of kind of taking that time out just to look after yourself a little bit, and whatever that might be that makes you happy, and trying to get the right balance between work and kind of relaxing time, and taking time out to go for a walk or exercise or whatever, or have a nice bath, and doing things for yourself that makes all the difference, because it's not always easy.
Definitely. And a bit of a random one, but what is the best or worst gift you've ever received?
Oh, that's a very good question. I think I probably have to say probably the best gift I've received was a little cat. I love Cath Kidston. So it was a little Cath Kidston pencil case so I could put all my pens in from work. So that was a really nice present, very thoughtful. And I think, the worst present. I received a very peculiar looking candle which was surrounded by jelly, which was quite interesting. But it was the thought that counts. So I wasn't too fussed.
You don't want to say mine are the bad ones. Mine are always from my husband. So that's really good stuff. But it will be the last minute panic buy where he's clearly gone past a shop on the way to pick up the kid from nursery or something, and then he's like, I'll get
like garage flowers or something like that.
Yeah. But I had a man's card wallet once. You know, like.
Oh really?
Yeah, just don't bother. Give me the
Hang
cash.
on.
Yeah.
I'll go spend it myself.
Yeah. It's so nice to talk to you.
It's so nice to talk to you.
Talk with Ed, who I hadn't known to realise until now is your brother. And
Yes.
I work with my brother as well.
Oh,
yay. It's a different kind of relationship. Do you feel like you've got to know him a lot better from working with him?
Well, so because I don't really do much of the day-to-day running stuff. I haven't really done that side, but it's funny in social events, kind of family social events, the conversation will quickly turn to Nursem something like going along. So it's quite hard to sometimes just be like, no, we're not going to talk about work at the moment. Let's continue with family stuff.
I've got my brother, and my brother-in-law built the website, so he was involved from the
awesome.
Yeah, so it's like you can't really escape it.
No, exactly.
It's the trust thing, I think. You can't put money on that having someone involved who you implicitly trust, even if it sometimes drive you mad, you still know.
Absolutely. Yeah, and who will always have you kind of the best interests, our best interests at heart, kind of thing, is definitely good. Definitely.
Oh, well, I'm impressed, and the third baby on the way. There's so much going on, but good luck.
Thank you.
I know we had a quick chat before this, but I was saying it's fine. 3 is fine. You just lower your expectations, like low. And look after yourself. So you were talking about self-care and look after yourself. I think that's a big
yeah. I need to schedule in my baths without being disturbed and things like that, so I can relax fully.
And naps. I'm a big believer in naps.
Yes. Gotta love a nana nap.
Oh, really good to talk to you.
Thank you so much, Steph.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.